I'm Tom Prince with Western New York Athletics, and you are here for our next edition of the Western New York Athletics Coaches Corner. Be more excited to talk to the coaches that we have today representing various schools here in Western New York. Our first one, Max Zimmerman from Will-North, Ryan Mohr from Maryvale, and John Haynes from Mohr-West. Boy, we've got some huge successful programs here, and we're going to be talking about what makes up those programs here as we go throughout this program in this episode. But we're going to start off with some very specific questions. We're all here hoping in Western New York that we are going to get some sort of shortened season in this season. It could either look in just conference play. It could look into getting extended into the summer. I've heard so many different scenarios, but we're all hoping that at least some sort of scenario comes to fruition. So with knowing that there could be a scenario that happens, my first question to you guys is going to be, with the possibility of a shortened season, how do you handle your pitching staff? Because we literally could only have 6 practices and then go into the season, which means you may know a little bit about your staff. You may know a lot about them. You may have hurt arms. There's so many things that you're going to need to deal with. So let's talk about how you would actually deal with that pitching staff. Max, let's start off with yourself.
Well, first, I think it depends on each team, but in our situation, we're lucky to have a decent amount of depth, and we have a decent amount of arms on our staff. So I think our philosophy would be, hopefully, if we have any kind of season, we're not gonna overwork our guys early in the season, and our philosophy kind of would be to prepare for that end of the season sprint with the playoffs and the sectional finals and the sectional playoffs is. So we try to figure out, we tell our guys the regular season anyway, in a normal season, is kind of figure out what your team is and what your best combinations are to get you to that sectional final and win 3 games in the AA at least in tournament. So say give a lot of guys opportunities and see which kind of guys step up and grasp that opportunity.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So, Ryan, how would you answer that question? You're a smaller school right now, not as much depth as normally a AA school may have. So, how would you handle your pitching staff differently?
We're like you said, a smaller school, and we're lucky to return about 5 guys that have gotten varsity experience from last year. But it's the same thing. We've been throwing all winter, which has helped, and now we have this break, and nothing that the kids can do, at home with their brother, father, mother, whoever they're playing catch with, can simulate anything that we've done at practice. So it's once we get back into it, it's starting slow, and you can get a few innings out of guys, but like Max said, number one is keeping guys healthy, and getting as many guys in as possible. Some games you may have to go 3-4 guys in every game. Sometimes guys have low pitch counts and they can get a few extra innings, but it's definitely going to be a challenge. We're lucky to have 11 of our guys have pitched, which is good. So it's definitely going to be difficult. Plus we have we're the ECIC league this year that has the 14 game league schedule. So it was going to be challenging going into the season. And, this will make it even more challenging once we get going. But I have confidence in our staff, and guys are smart. They're honest with us. If they're a little sore, they're honest with us. And that's, as a coach, that's all you can ask for, is kids to be honest with you. And we'll do our best to keep everyone healthy.
That's great, though. 11 kids on a pitching staff is pretty good, especially at a small school. So no doubt the advantage that you'll have going into the season. And we're going to talk about some of those players very shortly. John, let's talk about your take-up. You lose the All-Western New York Player of the Year this past year, so there's a big shoes to fill as far as that pitching staff goes. How do you actually going to be able to handle your pitching staff going into this season?
Well, going into the season, and again, add to that, Max and Ryan, we've been, in the gym, since November, throwing, obviously, we didn't really start throwing until probably January, but the kids have been, throwing. Obviously, we sort of had a little break here now because they don't have, like Ryan said, they don't have, the catcher to, catch those reps for, the kid. I have a veteran staff actually coming back. Don't get me wrong, losing Dom last year is a huge, part of the program. He's been on the varsity for 5 years. But, I have 3 other kids that have varsity experience on the varsity. And then we have a senior that came out that didn't come out a couple years ago and is back, a lefty. And then there's kids coming up from the JV that definitely had a lot of reps on the JV that have a lot of experience, so that could help us, come play the season. I mean, my philosophy probably going into the season is we want to make sure we're definitely taking care of those arms. So maybe the pitch count at the beginning is, we do this, all of us do this at the beginning, we watch the pitch count as the season progresses, then we start to increase. I actually thought about, maybe splitting up games with 2 different pitchers, you know what I mean, depending on how the game goes. But we'll see what happens here. We're just praying that, we definitely get to play. I mean, even if it's 1 round, I mean, for these seniors and stuff, I mean, we're all in this together, and it'd be detrimental if these seniors don't get an opportunity.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I couldn't agree with you more there, John. So my next question for you guys is, how does a younger player or a first-time player into varsity actually gain your confidence in a short season? What do you think that player is going to need to do to separate himself to be able to gain the confidence to get some playing time? Ryan, let's start with yourself.
We're always looking for kids that can hit, and if you can pitch as well, you're going to give yourself a great opportunity to get in. And we've seen a lot of our younger kids in our winter sessions that we started in January, and some of the kids have definitely stepped up and just really performed for us in our short period of time that we've had our official practices and over our winters. But we had really been having we had a really good week of practice. Unfortunately, that got cut short there. But our young guys, we have some underclassmen that are up, and we have some new guys. And if you can get in there and find a position, if you're a guy that can play multiple positions, at our level, at our school, I know some of the bigger schools have pitcher only, pitch POs only, and all of our guys play a position as well and hit. So if you can play different positions, almost like a utility guy, and depending on who pitches for us, sometimes that changes our infield alignment, outfield alignment, and if you can play defense and give us some solid at bats, and then on top of it, if you can give us some innings with this shortened season, it's definitely going to be a positive. And it's a short season, and sometimes you get hot and you stay hot. Sometimes if you get in a slump in a short season, it's tough to get out of. But it's just about confidence and taking advantage of your opportunities.
Right. John, how would they happen to do it over at Ken-West?
Well, I would say, usually going into the season by now, we would have, anywhere from 8 to 12 scrimmages in, to get to see the kids. And basically you go into that first game knowing from there. But again, I sort of piggyback what Ryan said. I mean, if you're if your bat's hot and you start that first game, and chances are we got to go with that bat and continue to go with the bat. And again, it's going to change, obviously, depending on who's on the hill, because obviously we don't have a lot of POs, a lot of utility players and players that can play a variety of positions. So I think, like you said, going in with 6 practices and then starting that first game, obviously it's going to depend also, how they're going to do that as far as the rotation. Are they going to change the rotation? Is it going to be the same rotation? Like for us, the NFL, we play, a certain order, and then it goes around the second time. I know it's a little bit different in the ECIC, or is this year, I think, where you're playing back-to-back against the same team. So the pitching matchups, you're going to see 2. You won't see 2, the number ones twice. So, again, I think that's going to be a big difference, too, as far as what the order of, the round that you play. But the other part of it is that getting confidence right away with that kid is definitely going to be an advantage for those young kids.
Max, bigger school, AA, very hard to do it there. So how would I do it if I was at a AA school like Will-North?
You got to try to do it in practice. And we started doing that in our tryout process. We had 26, 27 juniors and seniors come out to try out for the team. So right from the first day, there's competition involved. And that's what we try to preach as a coaching staff, is every day in practice, we're competing in some capacity. So, whether it be live at bats in the cage, we actually got 1 inter squad in the first week that we had some great weather. We were lucky to have the turf and lucky to have the lights. So we're fortunate there. So our philosophy is if we create competition in practice and you get guys competing and you put some pressure on them, hopefully that builds a little bit of confidence. You see them succeed in those situations and throw some strikes and get some big hits and do some things successfully, then they can build that confidence. But it just kind of stinks that we got cut short there because we had a great week and we had tryouts and we made our team and then we were kind of ready to get rolling. But I would say our group of new incoming juniors is a pretty confident group, and sometimes it's our job as coaches to knock them down a little bit. So because they have had some success, in their careers and as a group at the JV level a little bit. So I don't think instilling that confidence would be that hard. I mean, the playing time, we're open with our guys. I mean, if you throw strikes as a pitcher, you're going to pitch. I mean, every coach, I think, agrees with that. It's not a secret. If you throw strikes, you're going to be on the mound. You get an opportunity. And offensively, and we had a couple competitions in the outfield and first base. We had some open competitions going on, and I was excited to see how those developed. If you follow, you stick to the approach at the plate, and we preach approach. And Coach Mohr knows that. That's what we learned at Brockport. You got to have an approach at the plate. And if you're showing us that you have an approach, even you're going to grit out. You're going to get out. You're going to make errors. You're going to have failures. That's the nature of this game. But if you're going through the process correctly, kind of to quote Sean McDermott there, then you'll have more success than failures at the end of the day.
There you go. All right, let's get into your team makeups right now, because you all have some special teams and some special players on these teams that we're going to be discussing for this season. John, let's start with yourself. You've got a defending sectional championship team that you've got there. They are itching to defend that championship. We've already talked to Zach Boyes here at Western New York Athletics. We know he cannot wait to get on the field, and he's already doing those things. But let's talk about the makeup of that team and how they will go about defending that sectional championship.
Well, first of all, again, just a little side note. I mean, we've had the best spring possible in the last 10 years, and unfortunately, we haven't been able to take advantage of it. We were supposed to open league play yesterday, and in the first time I've been the head coach, we probably would have been across the board. All the NFL teams would have actually played, even without turf. You know what I mean? The grass fields would have been fine, and it's just upsetting, But hey, we got to go at it. But as far as Ken-West, my guys are definitely itching. The last 3 years, we won 2 out of the 3 years of the NFL title. Last year, we made a great run, to the regionals. We beat some good teams along that way. We bring back, like I said, a strong pitching staff from last year. Prof. Smith, he pitched, 38 innings on the varsity, 40 Ks. We bring back Will Hudson, a senior. He's been committed to NCCC. Freshman last year, Connor Walker. He's a sophomore this year. He had 15, 16 innings on the varsity, picked up 2 wins, one against Niagara Falls, which was a big one for us going into the end of the season there for the NFL title. It put us, 1 game ahead of, I think it was Grand Island. So it was definitely a big win for us there. He showed great promise. And then we have a senior that hasn't been involved in the program. He actually, a couple of years ago, transferred from St. Joe's. He's a lefty. He's got great speed, and he definitely will add to the lineup if we get out there. It's Jake Jones. And then, like I said, coming up from the JV, we have another lefty, Mario Smith, which got a ton of innings last year and won a lot of games down on the JV. You probably remember him. We both go against him during the summer.
We did.
And then Justin Quokka and Jack McDonald both coming up. And then actually his first time in my whole time I've been coaching over at West, I actually kept an 8th grader. And he has a very good chance. We had a great week of practice, like, Max and Ryan had said. It's Reed Leismeister. And he, like I said, going in that week, he looked like our best third baseman, and we kept him up from the varsity. And he also can give us some innings on the mound. Then going up the middle, both guys are returning. You got Jairo Santos, that was a 300 hitter last year, 19 RBIs. Phenomenal shortstop as a junior. Then you have next to him Zach Boyes, was a an all-Western New York candidate. He was also a first-team All-League. Definitely is there. And then behind the dish, Matt Shimera has been up on the varsity. He's a 3-year starter for us behind the plate. And then in the outfield, rounding up in the outfield, probably Rafi Smith would be in center field when he's not on the hill. And then Colton Cicero would probably be in left. And then the other spots open right now on the right. And like you said, we have a lot of kids returning. We're just getting the itch. We want to really get back there and get going and defend the title that Haynes-Ken-West had last year, and then hopefully go farther in the regionals. We just hope we get the opportunity for not us but everybody in Western New York. It would be horrible if these seniors go out without having an opportunity to finish up their careers at their schools. So, but yeah, I'm looking forward to it, and hopefully that we definitely get to get on the ball and in the next month.
Yeah, and fingers crossed, and we want to be able to see you go out there and get an opportunity to defend that crown. Max, you're going to be part of the ECIC 1 division, which could be considered one of the most competitive divisions in Western New York. From top to bottom, it is tough this year. They've got deep teams from Lancaster, Orchard Park, Clarence, Frontier. We hear Frontier's got somebody throwing 90 miles an hour right now, right? But you right now have one of the deepest teams that we're out there talking about inside the CCIC 1 division. Plus, you will be led by a Division 1 player that is committed to play Division 1. You've also got some other big commits there too. Let's talk about the makeup of Will-North.
Yeah, we were excited. I mean, we are excited. We have a great pitching staff, and with our schedule where you play the same team Monday, Tuesday, we really were set up nice. We had a Duddle. You talked about a Duddle, who's our guy who's going to Canisius, and he's been our stud for the last 2 years. I actually didn't even get to see him yet because he was competing in the hockey championship, so he was getting ready to play in the Final Four. So I didn't even have a chance to see him throw a bullpen yet. We also had Josh Courtley, who's going to NCCC. Actually been in the last year, so I feel really bad for him because I know he's worked his butt off the last year. He had surgery last spring, been grinding for 2+ years now, trying to get somewhere in college and throw some fastballs out there. He's about 87, 88. And I actually stepped in there in the cage myself when I got to see this myself. This kid, he's one of those confident guys who talks a lot. Kyle Finn was a junior from the JV. So we had a Duddle and Finn would have been our 2 starters Monday, Tuesday. And those were, great arms right there. And then we would have had Courtley been our closer. Devin Blazak, who's been working real hard with the Niagara Thunderwolves travel program this winter, this offseason. He was looking to be our non-league arm, so we were really set up nice. We had like I said, we have some depth in the bullpen that we kind of figure out, the middle relief guys. So, and that's exciting as a coach because that's what you have some tools at your disposal, and you have some guys who have put the work in. And my assistant coach Chris Warren has been grinding with these guys for 2-3 years, and a lot of these guys have committed as freshmen and sophomores into the weight room and into fall ball. So now they're kind of coming into their own as juniors. You look at a guy like Parker Murray, who is a great corner infielder and a great bat, would have been a middle of the order bat for us. He's a junior. We bring back Connor Holman, who was first team all ECIC last year and hit almost 500 in the league as a sophomore and was a stud. We look at our seniors, Dylan Wannett going to MCCC. Jack Balzerzak in the outfield was going to Hilbert. We have Hunter Zabrowski, who was a middle of the order bat for us this year, looking like. So we had a lot of talent. I mean, obviously ECIC 1, I'm biased. I think it's always the best league in Western New York. I think it's always been great top to bottom, even back in my days as a player in ECIC 1 at North, and then as a coach breaking in with West Seneca West for a few years and playing in ECIC 1. I always think ECIC 1's the best baseball around. And it's always exciting. That's what makes it exciting, because every day you show up to the ballpark, you never know who's going to win, and it's going to be a good battle, and it's going to be a good ball game, and you're going to be competing. So yeah, we had some tools at our disposal as coaches that we were excited about, and we are excited about to see how it kind of slots in and putting that puzzle together.
Ryan, now we're going to talk about your team. You also are in a very competitive division this year. You are going to be led by a Division 1 player yourself that will be heading to the mound. You also have a very young catcher that's getting national recognition out on the national stage that we are hearing a ton about. Plus, you've got some other players that are going to help those two. Let's talk about the makeup of Maryvale.
Oh yeah, first we talk about Connor Desiderio, who's going to St. Bonaventure next year, and he's a 4-year varsity player. And he just had a tremendous career for us. When we won sectionals 2 years ago, he had 5 saves, and just a guy that came out of the bullpen. And along with 5 saves, he had 5 wins that year. So he was just, he's had a great career, not only in baseball but in football as well. Can't speak enough about how hard he works. On the field, off the field, he's a leader. And, as Max and John said, we're really hoping for these seniors to be able to go out playing some games. We have tough weather every spring, but every spring we know we're eventually going to play. This year's it's a little bit different with it being up in the air. So, and that goes for all our seniors and any athlete across Western New York. We just want them to get out there. But Connor, lefty pitcher going to Bonaventure. He battled an injury last year, and he's come back strong. We were able to inter squad the Saturday before practice end, and he looked great on the mound. And then you talk about Dalton Harper, the catcher, who's gotten he's been talking with Alabama and Boston College, and he's been up since 7th grade. He was a huge member of our sectional championship team. He had a huge hit against Newport in the A2 finals, 2-run double. And then against Willys, he had a big 2-run single when we beat them. And just a phenomenal kid, phenomenal athlete to do what he's doing as a freshman and what he's done. Last year, he hit over 400 for us. And he was hitting 3-4 in our order, and teams knew about him. And he was still making hard contact, getting on base, hitting gaps, hitting home runs. So, and he does a great job behind the plate, and he can pitch a little bit, which, you usually don't see that from a catcher. And we've been very smart about, with his arm being so young. And last year we had a very good second catcher as well, which helped us allow him to pitch a little bit and then get some rest that he needed. Huge things out of him and Connor. And then talking about some of our other guys, Carson Harper, which is Dalton's brother, who's a junior. This is his 3rd year on the varsity. He was a key member of our sectional championship run, pitcher. He's a guy that's, infield. He'll be our shortstop when he's not pitching. And, he's our number 2 guy behind Connor. And, he's just improved every year. I mean, him and his brother are just relentless workers playing baseball. And that's what you love as a coach is kids that they're doing all the extra stuff. They're doing it all year. And, he's can also play the outfield if needed, which we won't need him to be there this year. Another guy that's going to hit in the top of our order, who's really, like I said, progressed from freshman and sophomore year, now being a junior, and he's a great leader. We have 2 other seniors that are returning starters. AJ Wellens at first base, solid first baseman, always gets on base, gives us great at bats. Max talked about approach and that's stuff that we work on. And walks, hit by pitches, AJ does it for us, and he's a steady guy over at first base. And we return our starting center fielder Donovan McCoy as well. Kid is lightning fast, very good football player, strong. When he gets the bat on the ball, I mean, he hits the ball hard. Great kid, works very hard. And it's fun watching him track balls in center field, and he can pitch a little bit for us. And one more returner that we had, Austin Prelo, is a junior. He played a lot last year for us as a sophomore. Kid that's progressed every year. Another kid that loves baseball, works very hard at it. And he'll give us some innings on the mound as well while playing third base. And he can also play a little middle infield. And, 2 other seniors that were, unfortunately we lost one senior, Wilman Duffick, in practice to an injury for the year, which is terrible. We feel really bad for Will. And Evan Peters is one of those guys that was working hard for a middle infield spot, who returned from last year. And talking about a couple of younger guys, we have Josh Lajeunesse. He just moved in the district from Amherst. He's a sophomore, and he made the varsity squad. A kid that worked really hard, like we were talking about in the winter, and got our confidence. And good. He can pitch. He's another one of those guys that if we need him in the outfield, middle infield, he can get us innings on the mound as well. And a freshman Hunter Murphy made the varsity. Another guy, middle infielder, pitcher, can use him in the outfield. And then a couple guys to round out our roster. Nick Martin, he came up last year for us. Big, strong kid that can pitch. We've been working him in as a little bit of a backup catcher as well. And then we have JJ Shashelski, who's working hard to get innings on the mound and at first base for us. Drew Ward, an outfielder. Jordan Siatowski and Justin Bell kind of round out our roster. Those 4 guys are all juniors. And, we're just looking forward to getting back out there. Had a great first week of practice outside a lot. And I just hope for all our kids that they get the opportunity to get some action this year.
Yep, no doubt. And that's why we want to make sure they get some recognition right now, which is what we're trying to do, is at least get these kids the recognition that they deserve. So I got one more question for each of you. Okay? Give me one name right now on your teams that we do not know yet about, that we better make sure we know this name, because he's going to be the one that's going to be making an impact here shortly in Western New York. Max, let me start with yourself.
I'd say Kyle Finn. Kyle Finn's our junior pitcher that I talked about. He was real close to making the varsity last year. Was a JV ace, and a 3-sport guy, football, basketball, baseball, but I think baseball is really his ticket, and I think he has the talent and the ability to play college baseball in the future.
Great. John, who would be your one player?
I would say that's a tough question. Very tough. I would say Jake Jones. He's a senior that hasn't played any high school baseball.
Wow.
And he basically been academically ineligible. So I think that in this year he's eligible. It's the same thing with basketball. I think he definitely could be the ticket that we're missing. He throws, mid 80s. He's a lefty. He could be the guy that replaced Dom. Don't get me wrong. Dom gave us a ton of innings, ton of years, a lot of wins, but he definitely could be the guy. It would be Jake Jones.
And Ryan, what about yourself?
I'll say Josh Lajeunesse from, he's, like I said, new to us, sophomore, very fundamentally sound, really nice kid, someone that we see playing to multiple different positions for us. And he's going to get the opportunity being a sophomore up on the varsity. Otherwise he wouldn't be there. So that would be my pick.
Okay. Well, guys, that's all the questions that I have for you today. I thank you so much for joining our next edition of the Western New York Athletics High School Coaches Corner. Great job. Look forward to seeing all of you guys out on the field. Let's hope that it's sooner and later, but our fingers are crossed that it's going to be much sooner, and we look forward to seeing you guys out there and your teams.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you, Tom.
You do for Western New York and for high school sports. You and Frank, think this is awesome. Him starting this up, and you guys, you taking it by your wing and doing all the extra things that you do for high school sports. So hats off to you and the crew.
Thanks, John.
Yep, I agree. Our kids look forward to everything that you do.
Thanks.
I mean, also with that, the thing you started last year with the high school seniors, I think that's awesome too. I mean, it just keeps on building. And the other thing, I'm a football coach, just like Max is. I don't know, Brian, are you a football guy or no?
No, basketball.
Okay, but anyways, I mean, the whole thing with the boroughs and the senior cup, I mean, I was involved in years ago when Rob Cannellini was doing the ECIC 1 and the ECIC 2. And then we did a little showcase during the summer. But that senior cup that you put together is awesome, and it's great for the kids. So definitely be appreciated for what you're doing for Western New York high school sports.
Thanks, John. It means a lot to me. Thank you.